What if gratitude could change the way life and help you find happiness in what you already have? Stay with this story until the end, and you'll discover why gratitude can change everything.
Once upon a time, at the edge of a quiet American woodland, a flock of sparrows lived among the old oak trees. Among them was a young sparrow who was almost never satisfied. Every morning, he complained about his food. He complained about his nest. When the weather was cold, he complained. And when the sun grew too warm, he complained about that too. The other sparrows had plenty to eat. Their nests were safe and cozy, and they had each other for company. But the young sparrow barely noticed any of it. He was always looking for something better, and slowly, his constant complaining began to push him away from the rest of the flock. One morning, tired of everything around him, the young sparrow finally decided to leave. He flew farther and farther away from the woodland, convinced that a better life was waiting somewhere else. After traveling for miles, he discovered a beautiful garden behind a large country home. The garden was filled with berries, fruit trees, colorful flowers, and more food than he could ever eat. The young sparrow could hardly believe his luck. This is exactly what I've been looking for, he thought. He chose a tall tree near the garden and built himself a new nest among its branches. For a while, he was happy. He had more food than he could eat, a beautiful garden to live in, and a comfortable place to sleep. But soon, his old habit returned. The more he had, the more he wanted. He began demanding more and more fruit from the trees. And when the trees couldn't provide enough, he became angry. He pecked at the branches. He damaged the fruit. And little by little, he began ruining the beautiful garden. The gardener noticed what was happening. Day after day, he watched the young sparrow destroy the plants. Eventually, he decided to catch him. So, he set a small trap near the garden. The very next morning, the sparrow flew straight into it. In seconds, he was trapped inside a cage. He struggled. He tried to escape, but there was nowhere to go. And for the first time, the young sparrow realized what he had lost. His freedom, his open sky, his old nest, his flock. Back home, he had food. He had a safe place to sleep. He had other sparrows around him, and he had the freedom to fly wherever he wanted. He had simply never appreciated any of it. Days passed. The young sparrow remained inside the cage, and without the freedom to fly, the beautiful garden no longer looked beautiful to him. The fruit no longer mattered. The comfortable nest no longer mattered. All he wanted was the freedom he had once taken for granted. Then, one afternoon, an old sparrow flew over the garden. He noticed the young sparrow sitting silently inside the cage. The old sparrow landed nearby and asked, "What happened to you?" The young sparrow told him everything. He admitted that he had always complained about what he had. He had believed that happiness was waiting somewhere else. He had left his flock searching for more, only to lose the freedom he already had. The old sparrow listened quietly. Then he said, "Be grateful for what you have, and you'll begin to see how much you already have. But when you refuse to appreciate what is yours, even abundance will never feel like enough." The young sparrow lowered his head. For the first time, he understood the truth. The old sparrow then flew to the gardener and asked him to release the young bird. The gardener agreed. When the cage door opened, the young sparrow immediately flew back toward the woodland. He returned to his old flock. The other sparrows welcomed him back with open wings. The young sparrow apologized for the way he had behaved and promised to change. They forgave him, and from that day forward, he became a different bird. He stopped complaining about every little thing. He appreciated the food the flock shared. He took pride in the small nest he once thought was too ordinary. He welcomed the rain instead of complaining about it. He enjoyed the warmth of the sunshine. And every evening, when the flock settled into their nests, he felt grateful simply to be surrounded by birds who cared about him. Slowly, the young sparrow finally understood something he had missed for years. Happiness was never waiting in some distant garden. It had been sitting in his old nest all along. He had simply been too busy wishing for more to notice it. and the words of the wise old sparrow stayed with him for the rest of his life. He learned that gratitude doesn't mean having everything you want. It means recognizing the value of what you already have. And that became the greatest lesson of his life.